Hey there, so first things first, I know it's a little bit dark in here and I'm sorry, but it's kind of just like a dark, rainy, gloomy day and I feel like I needed to go ahead and film this video while I still felt like it because honestly it's starting to feel like I'm filming the same sad video over and over again. But this is my real life, this is what's really happening to me and I decided to share it. So you know from the title of this video that I had a chemical pregnancy. This is my third pregnancy and third miscarriage. So at this point I am having recurrent miscarriages. But I just wanted to explain kind of what happened and how I knew and how I'm doing now because the story was a little bit weird and definitely different from the other ones. So I'll backtrack and let you know that I had a miscarriage in early December of 2020 and I was basically just waiting to get my cycle back, and the weekend after Christmas I decided to go to my dad and grandma's house to help them do some DIY projects and painting and stuff like that. And I really started noticing that things were up on the Monday after I got there. I went to go start painting and I noticed immediately that my stomach was just not feeling good. It was upset, like I felt really off. And then I noticed that I was fatigued beyond belief. Like I felt like I was going to pass out if I didn't go to sleep. I absolutely had to take a nap. So that's what I did, and I slept for like an hour and a half. And the only reason I even got up is because I set an alarm and I like promised that I would finish these projects, which seems kind of silly now that I like pushed myself that hard, but I would have probably slept the whole night through if I hadn't set an alarm and like made myself get up. So anyways, when I was set to leave on Tuesday, I decided I needed to stay another day because I physically didn't think that I could make the 4.5 hour drive back. Plus, I wanted to do a little bit more work on the project because I didn't get to like finish hardly any of what I was hoping to. So I stayed longer. I didn't feel any better. I eventually made the drive back with like a lot of candy and Red Bull, which in retrospect was bad. But I made the drive home and I was off work the whole week through New Year's, thankfully. And like I was glad that this was a year that we just spent New Year's at home by ourselves because I could hardly even make dinner. I was so tired and I started just feeling really bad. Like I was super nauseous, I was having food aversions, I was getting very, very hot, which is very unlike me, all of those things. And so I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, I hope that I don't have COVID. I hope that I didn't give it to my grandma and my dad. Because I mean, I had been quarantining before this, but you just never know. Like you hear people getting it and they've hardly gone anywhere. So I scheduled a COVID test for myself and the only option was 3 days from then. But having all these symptoms, I was just thinking, oh my gosh, I hope I'm not sick. But I ended up having a pregnancy dream and I thought to myself, okay, I just need to take a test to get that out of my head, just get the idea gone. Totally not expecting it to be positive because we were not trying and I had just had a miscarriage earlier that month and I hadn't gotten my cycle back yet. So I took a test and there was definitely a faint positive. Like it was for sure there. So I took another one and another one and another one and a million, like I looked like a crazy person. I had my entire bathroom counter filled with pregnancy tests and there was a faint line that I could see on all of them. So my husband was out playing ping pong and I was like, you need to come home right now. And I sent him the test and he was just like, WTF. So that day I was crying because I didn't feel like I was physically ready to be pregnant yet and I hadn't been treating my body in a way that I would if I was trying to be pregnant. So I was like crying about being pregnant. And then the next day I was like, well, it was very faint the day before. So I was like, I need a test to make sure it gets darker. And it was not darker. It was still very faint. And so then I was crying that day because I realized that I probably wasn't going to be pregnant anymore. And I just still felt so bad. I felt so bad. And then the following day, which was finally a Monday, like a week after all these symptoms had onset, my test was negative. Oh, and I will mention I did take a digital test the prior 2 days and they were both negative, but on the dye test is where I could see the very faint line. So the dye test on Monday was also negative, but I went ahead and called my OB and I was like, I think I'm having a chemical pregnancy, but they said that they wouldn't consider it a pregnancy unless I came in and did labs and they confirmed it. So I went ahead and did that to get my HCG and progesterone tested, and that came back on Tuesday, the following day, and they actually said it was negative for HCG. So I honestly think that this was just a timing thing. I think that if I would have tested before, like a week before, it probably would have been like a darker line that got fainter and fainter. I think that I probably just tested at the tail end of it. So almost immediately after I hung up the phone on that Tuesday, I started having severe cramping, and I was having mild cramping the night before. I forgot to mention that, but I started having severe cramping to the point where I couldn't even stand up. I definitely couldn't walk. I was super nauseous. I was in so much pain, and it felt very similar to the pain that I'd experienced earlier that month with my miscarriage. So yeah, super painful. And then I finally started bleeding, which I was relieved that I didn't have to wait longer for that to happen. But I am still absolutely convinced that I had a chemical pregnancy. I know how I feel. I trust that like the 12 to 15 pregnancy tests that I took were positive. It was funny because when the doctor's office called and was like, oh, it was negative, maybe you got a false positive. And I was like, I took like 12 to 15 pregnancy tests on 5 different brands, and I saw a faint line on all of them. And she was just like, oh, wow. Like, she's probably like thinking I'm crazy, which if you think I'm crazy, that's fine. But I just, like, I really wanted to know, you know what I mean? I just didn't think it would be possible. I thought it was gonna be negative, but it wasn't. And so I'll go ahead and insert a picture here so you can see what the tests look like. So the top two were day 1 that I tested, the third one was the second day that I tested, and the fourth one on the bottom was the Monday that I tested that I had my labs done also that showed no HCG. So you can see what those looked like. So yes, I do think that this was a chemical pregnancy. The bleeding that I'm having now, which I'm still going through this right now, is very heavy. It's irregular. There are lots of blood clots. Had I not taken a pregnancy test, I would probably be very concerned right now, because the level of pain that I was in yesterday was like, it was to the point that I would have called the doctor. I had to take pain medicine, like a prescription pain medicine and ibuprofen, and I was still in pain. Like I said, like I couldn't stand up or walk at a certain point. So I definitely think that that is what's happening right now. So at this point, this would be my 3rd miscarriage in a row, and I asked my doctor's office if they recommend me seeing a fertility specialist at this point. They have done like a pretty extensive workup at my OB's office already, but I know that fertility clinics can do a little bit more. And so my doctor's office said no, just because they can't consider this a pregnancy since their HCG test said negative. So they suggested that I go ahead and wait the 1 to 2 cycles again and then try again, which, I mean, fine, I'll do that. But I did also go ahead and just fill out the questionnaire for a consultation for a fertility clinic that's right by my house that I pass by all the time, because I figure, you know, why not? I know that sometimes they can take a long time to get an appointment anyways. So I'll just see what they have to say. It doesn't hurt to get a second opinion. So I'm gonna do that. And right now I'm feeling really weird. I'm in a weird place. I say this all the time, I'm an eternal optimist, and after the second miscarriage I was feeling totally fine. Like, I didn't even cry, I was fine. But this time around I cried. So now I'm just in a weird place where I'm still in a lot of physical pain. It's not horrendous at this point, but it's not great. I'm still tired, not as tired as I was, but just not feeling very good physically, and it's starting to wear on me a little bit mentally, because I just feel like now it just feels like a little bit less likely to have a positive outcome each time. Like, it was easier and easier to like keep my head up before. It wasn't easier and easier but it was easier to keep my head up before, and now it's a little bit harder. I mean, I'm still optimistic and hopeful, and I know that it'll happen for me, and I know there's a lot of good things. Like, clearly I can get pregnant, which is a great thing. All of these miscarriages happen very different from each other, and the reasons for the miscarriages are probably a little bit different since they happen so differently. But I don't know what to think at this point. You know, starting out after like the first and even second miscarriage, I was thinking, oh, well, you know, at least I haven't had 4 or 5, or at least I haven't had like 15 or whatever. But that's the danger in starting to like compare your situation to other people's, is because once you get to the point where maybe I will have 4 or 5 or 15 miscarriages, I don't know. So I think it's better to just do my best to try to keep a clear head. Like, my situation is my situation, no one else's, so it's not going to be the same, so there's no use in comparing it. I just need to go through whatever comes to me and figure out the best way to navigate it, I guess. That's what I think. So I am currently doing lots of things to distract myself, lots of YouTube, thank you, lots of Netflix, and hopefully once I start feeling better physically, some working out. I'm wearing a workout outfit right now, but I don't know if that's going to be real, if I'm just kind of lounging today, but we'll see. Maybe I'll do some yoga. Yeah, so that's what's happening. That's my update. Thanks so much for watching, and I really appreciate you hanging out with me and being interested in what's going on. Please be a good human, have a good day, and I'll see you later. Bye.